Ready, Freddie? All right, I'm Nicole. Thanks for having me. I'm going to take you, hopefully, from wine no to wine oh in about 5 minutes or less. Just a warning, you're about to see some extremely mediocre whiteboard drawings. I apologize for that, but hopefully you'll learn something. First up, party tricks. This is fun. If you've ever opened a bottle of champagne but you can't finish it, try putting a metal spoon or fork in the top of it. It'll keep it a little bit bubbly. I've heard this works okay. I've never tried it, but maybe you can next time. Give it a shot. So, this blew my mind the first time I saw someone do this. Did you know you can take the foil off with your hand? Sometimes. I kind of pre-loosened it. Or you can use a fancy foil cutter like this one. Anybody ever seen one of these? Okay. If you've ever drank red wine and got that red wine stain on your teeth and you hate it and it's so embarrassing, try brushing your teeth before you go. Now let's talk about aging. Not all wines age. This is a common misconception. Wines like Moscato, they can't be aged. Most wines, about 5 years. Some reds, up to 10 to 12 years. Why do we store them sideways? That's because of the cork. If it dries out, it shrinks and it lets air into the bottle and that'll actually decay the wine. Hence, sideways. If you don't have cork, you can leave it upright and that's totally fine. So we ferment wine typically in steel and then we let it age in oak. That's usually French or American oak. This just adds to the flavor, it lets the tannins develop. We don't have time to talk about what tannins means, that's a whole nother talk. So if you're reading the label on a wine bottle, the year is called the vintage. Oh yes, that's a very nice vintage. Just means the year. The region is California in this case. The appellation is Napa Valley, and that's the area within the region. And the varietal, it just means grape, is Merlot. Sometimes the region is the type of wine. This happens a lot with old world wines like Bordeaux, which is a place in France, and a type of wine. It's actually a blend of a couple different types of grapes, which I know is a little confusing, but that's what that means. So now you're at a restaurant. Do you order a bottle of wine or do you bring a bottle of wine? Do not bring a $15 bottle of wine and pay the corkage fee. That is ridiculous. You should order a bottle of wine if you're going to do that. And then the person that will help you do that is the sommelier if you're at a fancy restaurant. We don't have time to get into what that means. There's a great Netflix documentary called Somm that you should check out if you want to know more. Basically, they're a wine steward, and they'll say, oh, you're ordering the fish, you should do this wine with that. It'll be delicious. Basic wine pairing tips, heavier wines with heavier food. If you're eating fish, typically that's a white wine, depending on the sauce. If it's beef, typically a red wine. Again, it kind of depends, but those are some basics that you can use. You might see the term old vine on a bottle. That means that the vines are 50 years or older. Grapevines can be hundreds of years old and continue to produce grapes. And this is really popular in California with Zinfandel, so you'll see old vine Zin thrown around a lot, and that's what that means. Really popular in California right now is this term called dry farming, and that's where you don't use irrigation at all, and the vines simply take the moisture from the air or the rainfall. This leads to a sweeter, denser grape. You might also find a lot of California olive trees on vineyards. This is because they like that Mediterranean climate, and they're also harvested in the same manner. So you'll harvest your grapes, and then you'll harvest your olives. They go hand in hand, like peanut butter and jelly. Say it with me, terroir. It's a fancy French term. It basically just means characteristic of the region. It has a lot to do with the soil, and it's thrown around a lot to make people seem like they're fancier than they are, but it basically just means the wine is unique based on the region it was grown in. So there's a difference between a white wine glass and a red wine glass. Whites, shorter, skinnier. Reds, taller, fatter. This is so you have more surface area in the red wine glass to swirl that wine and get more air into it. The parts of the wine glass, you have the rim, the bowl, the stem, and the base. You're supposed to hold it by the stem. The heat from your hand can mess with the taste of the wine, so do not hold it by the base or the bowl. So, Decanting, very important when you have a more intense red wine. You want to let it breathe for a little bit. You want a decanter like this one. You want the most wine in contact with the most amount of air. So you don't just want to open the wine bottle and just say, oh, it's breathing. That'll only get air to the very top part of the wine. And that's it. There's so much to talk about. Oh my God, 5 minutes goes by so fast. If you want to know more about this, let me know. I'm on Twitter, Nicole Rose Dion. You can follow me. I don't tweet about wine though, so that'll be very disappointing if that's what you're looking for.